Now that you have a better understanding of what grants are, let's go over how to find them. Who gives grants? You may be surprised to hear that there are countless organizations that give grants. I've broken them down into some categories so we can talk a little bit about each one. We have government agencies, corporations or businesses, and foundations. First, we'll talk a little bit about the government agencies. Within the government, there are different branches, and each branch has a specific purpose or focus. I've listed a few of those branches here. Each of these government agencies give money, a lot of time in the form of grants, for certain projects or endeavors. Let's take the USDA for example. They have several grants that focus on agriculture, so if you have an ag program in your school, I'd visit their site and see what they have. Also, as you can imagine, the Department of Education has a lot of grants and other resources for schools. I'll add their link to the resource page for this section, so definitely look through their programs to see if anything fits your needs. Government grants can be more difficult to obtain just because there are more hoops to jump through, and it is typically a larger pool they're choosing grant applicants from. But they can be very lucrative, especially if you have a larger project that you're working on. I'd also look into your state agencies. Those are typically also larger grants, but it's more localized, so you're not competing against so many other applicants. Corporations and businesses are also a great place to look for grant programs. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have heard of at least some of these corporations. Every single one of these that I have listed have grant programs that deal in some way with education. Some of these I've applied to personally and have gotten funding for our schools. There is no shortage of businesses and corporations out there, even in small towns. I live in a town of about 2,000 people. We have a limited amount of businesses, but I can tell you that our schools have received grant funding from a lot of them, even the ones that aren't large chains. Even if it's a small grant amount, that's still money going to your project or supplies list or program. So don't discount a business just because it's small. The last category I want to talk about is foundations. When I first got into grant writing, I didn't really understand the concept of a foundation and what they do, but come to find out, that is where we've gotten the majority of our grants from. A foundation is a charitable organization that is set up for the sole purpose of doing charity work, and a lot of that charity work includes giving funding in the form of grants to organizations or causes that need it and can put that funding to good use. There are two types of foundations. One is a public foundation and the other is a private foundation. A private foundation is typically made up of an independent person, family, or corporation. So basically, the money that you receive comes from one source. Public foundations are just the opposite of that. They use publicly collected funds in order to support their specific initiatives. So the money coming from one of these foundations would actually come from multiple different sources. Hopefully that gives a little bit better understanding of where these grant opportunities can be found. In the next video, in this section, I'm going to go over how you can start looking for grant opportunities that fit your specific needs.